and I challenge you. Think for just a moment of that first love. You might have been 4, you might have been 7, you might have been 14. And how easy, this is my fantasy, because I don't think I'm any different from you, how easy it is to remember that unforgettable first time of what Joyce calls an aesthetic arrest, where you were smitten and maybe 30 years later married that person, or 20 years later met that person again. That changed you, it changed me forever, and they're still right there, waiting to be summoned. I was 8. Her name was Judy Mahon, M-A-H-O-N. Or was it Joan Jevnikar? It could have been a conflation of the two of them, but they're both as vivid as you are in my psyche. They're powerful, those figures, and what they stir in us is one of the deepest archetypes in our soul, the archetype of love itself. We are not surprised then to see love itself raised to the level of divinity in world religions. To be smitten, what a wonderful medieval word, to be smitten, is terrible, delicious, paralyzing, all-devouring. We wouldn't trade that experience for anything, I think. The other event is Dante's creation of what he called La Vita Nuova, the new life, as a consequence of meeting this young woman, Beatrice. Now, some claim that he met her several times in his life, that seeded, S-E-E-D-E-D, in him, in a dramatic way, his life's work. Often less read than the Divine Comedy, which is hardly read at all anymore. And if it is, the Inferno is read. We seem to have a hang-up on hell, and we seem to recoil from heaven. What that's about is the title of a whole series of talks that will begin next fall. No, I'm teasing you. Be an interesting topic. So less read, nonetheless, La Vita Nuova is the prologue of sorts to the longer work, for in it, and through the emotional upheaval of meeting Beatrice, Dante found one of life's most mysterious and complex themes, that of love itself in all its permutations. Only death, in my view, carries the baggage, the mystery, and the beauty of love. Some claim that these two, love and death, are the only two themes worth writing about. I think there's a validity in that. If we look at those two, love and death, as not literal but metaphors for the movement of the soul through one's life. Now, Dante refers to his book of sonnets, which is La Vita Nuova, which he wrote early in his career, divided into 42 chapters, each one containing one sonnet. He called it My Book of Memory, in which he will recall, beginning in his 9th year, a magical number for both his sonnets and for the Divine Comedy as a whole, when Beatrice appeared to him in 1274. Here's what he writes. She appeared in the most patrician of colors, a subdued and decorous crimson, her robe bound and adorned in a style suitable to her years. Now, Dante goes on to use language that perhaps we can all connect to. Here's what he writes when he sees her. At that very moment, and I speak the truth, the vital spirit, the one that dwells in the most secret chamber of the heart, began to tremble violently, so that even the most minute veins of my body were strangely affected, and trembling it spoke the words, Ecce Deus fortior me, qui veniens dominabitur mihi. Here is a God stronger than I who comes to rule over me. Now, the Greeks understood the power of love to the degree that they made it into a divinity. And when a divinity visits, we mortals are paralyzed in their numinous presence. Today we might say that we have just read the lines of one who has been deeply smitten and lived to tell about it. Dante is fully conscious that something has entered him with an energy that is able to change his life's trajectory. Here's what he writes. Let me say that from that time on, love governed my soul, which became immediately devoted to him. Eros is masculine. And he reigned over me with such assurance and lordship, given him, listen to this, by the power of my imagination. Now that makes me want to suggest to you that love is a form of imagining. And that's where I'm leading us, I hope, to the Divine Comedy with. When one falls in love, one's imagination is transformed and the world appears differently. Now you've got to tell me what you think is more powerful than that. If as a force, love can change one's vision of the phenomenal world, that's divine power. Not content with simply being present to change Dante's reason for being, love ramps up his presence in the form of a vision that he delivers to Dante while he sleeps. In his vision, a handsome man, both terrible and joyful, appears to the poet holding two figures. In one hand, love holds, these are Dante's words, a sleeping figure, naked but lightly wrapped in a crimson cloth. In the other is an image we might find intimately connected to the experience of love. Here's what Dante writes. He seemed to be holding something that was all in flames as he spoke these words, Vide cor tuum, behold thy heart. This is a dream. Then, in a dramatic gesture that is at once compelling and unforgettable, he seemed to awaken the one who slept and forced her cunningly to eat of that burning object in his hand. She ate of it timidly. After which, Dante writes, he folded his arms around this lady, and together they seemed to ascend to heaven.